high school robotics. So, who
Liz, you're on,
do you all
sweetie.
have
Okay.
prepared speeches and?
Restarting.
He's just messing with you.
I'm so confused. Started?
I think we're on.
Oh, are we started? Okay.
Yep.
You're on.
Hi, I'm Elizabeth Holm, and I'm from Lindbergh Robotics.
I'm Benoni Puga. I'm also from Lindbergh Robotics.
And I'm Miguel Mayorga, and I'm from Limbic Robotics.
So just about us, we started in January. It's kind of, we consider robotics like our sport at Lindbergh. So we kind of see it as a fall sport because we started in January, but we have a lot of preseason workshops for people like incoming freshmen or just people like in the summer who kind of forget how to use the tools. So we have workshops for fab, for PR, for programming and electrical. So that way when we're going into the build season, we're like all find up and like we're ready to go. So we know how to use the tools. So during build season, it's a 6-week process, and a lot of the students there, they've spent over 200 hours just in those 6 weeks, and that's not including like pre-season or even after season. After season, we're still planning PR events like these ones, or just stuff for our shop, like our pits, trying to adjust them just to make them better for next season. Do you want to talk?
Sure. In addition to what we do after the season is other than like preparing for after the competition is over, we kind of do outreaching because like the purpose of FIRST is to promote science and math to high schools, middle schools, and elementary schools. So one thing we do after the season is like clean up the messes we made in terms of like making the robot, but then we kind of start outreaching and kind of go to elementary schools and doing small like after school workshops for kids to like have some fun. Also, we've been looking to like helping Nelson Middle School and Hazen High School in terms of starting their own FIRST robotics team. There are several different divisions in FIRST. We're part of FRC, which involves building this bigger robot, and then we're helping Hazen build an FTC team, which is much a smaller robot. I'm not sure I mentioned. In terms of what FIRST is, FIRST stands for inspiration and recognition of science and technology. And as mentioned before, it's kind of promoting science and math. And the nice thing about FIRST is it kind of sets a goal or a game for like students to work together to achieve that. For instance, during preseason, we gain the skills to be able to prepare the robot during January. It's not something we can just do right off the bat, because if we do it right off the bat, we wouldn't know how to do anything, and it requires an enormous amount of preparation in terms of getting the robot ready.
So just to talk about how our season went, at Central, which, we did a district model this year, which means we went to 2 high schools or colleges, and then if we qualified, we'd go to Portland, and after Portland is nationals. So at Central Washington, we actually won first place, and that's one of our banners. So it was a big deal for us, and we actually qualified for Oregon, which is like the next step. So it was our 3rd competition, which is a lot different than last year. We just went to Washington's, the one in Seattle, and it's just like, okay, once you're done, you're done. So this was our 3rd competition, and we actually placed 11th out of 64 teams. And we did qualify for nationals, which is like worldwide. They have teams in Turkey and Mexico and Canada. But because of money and just time, we just weren't prepared. So we decided to decline. And instead we're doing PR events like City Council. And next Monday, actually, we're gonna be presenting at Friends of Renton Breakfast to just promote STEM for middle school and elementary and high school for all the different schools.
Miguel, are we ready for a robot demonstration? Well, one of the few things that we kind of have to face when we're in robotics is kind of troubleshooting, and it's kind of like the whole process of the whole robotics. When we start off, we simply get the game on the first Saturday of January, and then we have 6.5 weeks to come up with a robot that can do that. And as many times as we often occur, we have right now issues with communicating with the robot. That's just like one of the skills we get to learn in FIRST Robotics is basically troubleshooting, being able to notice problems and then figuring out how to fix those problems. Normally, for us, there's different areas of problems. Usually the first section of the week or the first 2 weeks, we kind of go into the design phase. And the only big problem we have is finding a design that works and then designs that actually integrate together into a robot. And then after that, when we go into the fabrication, it's just a matter of putting the robot together and making sure what we designed actually comes out as the final product. This year, we had several goals in terms of meeting our robot. One of our goals was CADing the robot, and what CAD is computer-aided design. Basically, it's making a virtual model of the whole robot, and that's pretty much what most new objects today are probably made as computer design, and then they're made in real life. And the nice advantage of that is you get to see like a 3D image of whatever you're making, and then be able to take that to the real world. And then we were able to, this is our first year where we actually CAD'd up the whole robot and then built the robot. In previous years, CAD was kind of slow, so we kind of built the robot and then finished CADing it. This year we finished it, and then because we were so quick and organized in terms of putting our robot together, we were able to build one robot in 4 weeks, at least 5 weeks, and then we were able to put together a second robot. It's a good thing too. Our first robot was falling apart because we didn't use lock washers. So we would move a few feet and then the robot just lose something very important. We actually had a different demonstration of our robot to our school faculty meeting, and our robot just fell apart in front of everyone. Well, actually, that's the advantage of being organized, being able to put together a second robot. Is you get to see all the improvements you make. And even in the competitions, every competition, we just kept adding more and more to our robot. You notice, like, on our robot right now, we have a catapult, and we have, like, this golden oval that's connected to the catapult. We didn't have that in our first competition. We added that in our second competition as a way to help cradle the ball from falling off the catapult and to change the angle. And then those on our third competition, which was in Portland, we added those polycarb, which is the see-through plastic on the side, and that helped keep the ball from being pushed out from the side. So even when we get to the competition, which is like the finals of the robot, we have the ability to add more to our robot and keep improving it and make it better, so that every round we're just a more better robot for performing.
Mr. President?
yes, Marcy.
And each year there's a theme.
Yes.
What was this year's theme?
This year's theme, basically, First Robotics always adds like a sport aspect into the game. So this year we have a yoga ball. Basically what a robot's supposed to do is, Miguel's going over to the yoga ball. Basically the goal of the game was to pick up the yoga ball with the rollers in the back. And then, so basically how a robot would work if it was working is that those rollers would be churning, and then they would come down and pick up the robot. And when the catapult is down, or at least loaded, we would have the ability to take the arms, they move back and forth, and they would put the ball onto the catapult, and then we would shoot the catapult into the goal. Basically we had a low goal, which was kind of down here, and then we had a really high goal, which was really wide. And then we also had a truss, which is basically this beam that was in the middle of the field. And how FIRST works is FIRST is about encouraging teamwork. So not only do we have sports involved with the game, but we also have cooperation points. Basically, if you shoot over the truss, which is the beam in the middle, you get 10 points. If you shoot in the low goal, you get 1 point. If you shoot in the high goal, you get 10 points. If you pass the ball to another team member and shoot into the goal, you get 10 points for shooting the top goal, and you get 10 points for assisting. If you pass it to one robot and they pass it to another robot, you get 20 points for assisting. Basically, that's every year you have what they call cooperation points. And like one thing we did really well was cooperating with other teams. The reason why we got ranked really high was because we were the team that got the most cooperation points with other teams. So that's like another way FIRST helps promote like leadership and working in groups, is that even though we're all different teams, they have like the game set up that you would work together. Plus, oftentimes we don't have the same teams. Usually it's 3 robots versus another 3 robots, or either red or blue. Our bumpers can change colors. And basically the idea is you could have 2 allies in one match, and then the next match they're kind of like your opposing team. And that's like another nice thing about robotics, is that like you guys, we have like this one big room where we keep all our pits, which is basically like the fixing areas for our robots. And the nice thing about that is we get to fix our robot, and then if we need something, we can go to another team to ask for help. And basically, everyone's kind of friendly with each other. We're all cooperating with each other. There's no like direct friends or foe. You're kind of all friends because it's like one match we're allies, the next match we're not allies, and it goes back and forth. And that's the nice thing about First. Plus, there's all the cooperation. I remember some of like the big matches. We just have like all the drivers for our teams just group in front of like just group in the middle of like the hallways and just talk about strategy, like, oh, what are we gonna do? Who's gonna be the inbounder? Who's gonna shoot the ball into the goal? Who's gonna be in the middle of the field? And it's always like a very interesting experience. And basically that's what First is all about, promoting like engineering. And for instance, like camps, which is like one of our sponsors, they have during the summers summer internships specifically for people in First Robotics. So basically, if you were part of First and then you wanted to get like some real world work experience, there were certain camps like one of the jobs that offered that. And that's it's the nice thing. And I've heard friends who've come back from previous years and they say, yeah, I've been working in manufacturing or some portion of engineering, and like what we do in robotics is just the same. We have the same safety meetings, we have the same meetings about how everything's going to work together, and they just talk about how robotics is so much like the real world. And that's like the best, nice thing about robotics is it gives us a real world taste for what it'll be like after college or after high school. It's the robot work.
You're doing a great job, let me tell you. And to call you kids is really not the right word, young adults. You amaze me, and the fact that amazes me more than anything else is when you talk about it as a team, and that this is your sport. I just think that is just so awesome and I bet you all of you guys are going to become engineers. No.
Or teachers.
Teachers.
Actually, we need engineers. We got to keep them Boeing 737s
Yeah.
being built down here in Renton. So
Yeah, we need more help.
we need more help, and
Yeah.
we need young people like
Yeah.
you who do take on projects like this and articulate. When I was your age, I couldn't hardly say hi to an adult, much less stand up here and talk and ad lib like you've done, and it's very, very interesting. So
Very.
I just want to say thank you. My daughter is a product of the Renton School District, Hazen High School, and I've always been proud of the kids from this, and you guys make me even more proud.
And Mr. President?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we have a second item on committee of the whole, but I was going to say, I don't know if more time would help you get the robot working or not, but
Yeah, we can give more time and then go on to the other.
feel free if you want to keep working on it.
If it's just having a bad day, we understand too.
Yeah, we do
know
understand
We
that.
have
that.
bad days too, don't?
Yeah.
Contrary to popular belief, I think robots are actually sentient, and they.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's up to you, but if you thought that more time would help, please take it. And
Hi, I'm
Elisa,
Lisa
come-
McElroy.
come on up to the-
I'm one of their volunteers. I'm helping them with publicity and PR this year. And I just wanted to tell you guys also, again, with the Friends of Renton Schools Breakfast, the keynote speaker is actually from Red Dot, who is one of their biggest sponsors. And they're going to be a big part of that breakfast. And we were also working with community services, so we are looking at maybe having them, if we can get the robot to work, actually being on stage at Renton River Days and
Oh,
getting them a
good.
booth to kind of involve the community. One of the awards that I think you guys applied for it this year, it's called the Chairman's Award, and it is one of the highest honors. They did win the Quality Award this year, and that is, the Chairman's Award is, I think the basic criteria is how did you involve your community in getting on board with STEM and robotics and all of that stuff. And so that is a big focus, and we really appreciate you guys letting them come here, because I think this is really the first step for them. And I know their teacher is really looking at more sponsors and internships over the summer, just non-paid, just so these kids can see in the real world and you can see how well-spoken they are. But I just wanted to just add that on too. So if you guys have any suggestions for these guys or me on what we could do to help involve the community, that would be most appreciated. So, thank you.
Thank you.
I suppose, do any of you have any more questions about the robot? Or how our club works? For now, we're going to continue trying to get communication with the robot, but we thank you for letting us come up here and kind of explain what we do. So,
I had a question,
Just a
President.
second.
You may have already said, I didn't hear, how do you determine, the four of you got on this team, so how are the teams determined? How did the four of you decide to be on this team?
So for me, at least, I was a freshman, and I had our mentor, who's also our teacher. My science teacher happened to also be the coach for robotics, and he kind of like suggested being part of it. And I was kind of interested in the whole concept because like, oh, you can like build your own robot. It's like big. And one thing we do, at least for me, at least I was invited and like kind of encouraged by my science teacher to join robotics, which is what I went for. But one thing we do every single year on like the third day of school is we have all our robotics, as a good chunk of our robotics team members go to the science classes or science related classes, and pretty much we have a presentation, and in that presentation we kind of show to like as many students as possible. So like the third day of school, first 10 minutes of class, when the science class, explaining to other students about, hey, we have this really nice club at this school. Basically you can learn about building a robot, working with other people, learning leadership skills, learning communication skills, and then also being able to learn skills in engineering and math and science that you could use for the future, and kind of say like, we build this cool robot at the end of the year and become part of this. And that's how we kind of like promote our club, is that we have this presentation at the beginning of the year, and then we have like meetings during lunchtime. That way everyone can come in, because like usually the biggest issue is that people can't come in because like after school, but usually we have meetings during lunchtime as a way for people to get informed of how they should plan for their futures. So usually we promote like our club at the beginning of the year. We say, here's our club, and we go to every science class, so we go a little bit deeper in terms of than just simply putting posters in the hallways. We kind of do that too, but we also like go to the classes to see all the students and say, we have this cool club, you should totally join it. And we were very flexible in terms of figuring things out for people to come in.
Yes.
And how many are on your team, the Lindbergh robotics team?
So every year it varies. This year I believe we have 50 committed students.
Wow, 50.
Usually what happens is we start off with 80. Like the first meeting, 80 students would come over, and then they kind of dissipate after that. And then we kind of end up with like, this year was like 50, 60 people. And then in terms of going to Portland, we kind of judged down to people who spent like at least 100 hours in the club will be going to Portland, and that was like 30 students who ended up going to Portland. So that's like our range. Like, we have quite a decent sized team, but I've heard like from other teams that have like 120 students in their team. And basically we're kind of in the middle. We have quite a few people, but it's not like a huge chunk, a huge amount. But yeah, every year I've noticed like as we promote more of robotics and like we get further along, like we've been trying to build a t-shirt shooting robot to help like show off the assemblies, say, hey, we can build robots that shoots t-shirts. Look how cool this is.
Priorities.
So that's one way we're trying to like spread out robotics instead of just being for the game. Plus, like at the end of the year, we usually have like a human versus robot competition. Last year we had like a frisbee shooting robot, so we had someone shooting frisbees against the robot. The year before that we had a basketball shooting robot, so we had the basketball player versus the robot. And this year we're gonna have to be a little bit more creative. We'll figure it out. Usually that's like another thing we do to promote robotics. Like, hey, there's an assembly, let's show off our robot and look at all the cool things, and then like finding other ways of applying it in other places too.
So my understanding is at the beginning you just get a box of stuff, little parts, right?
That's not necessarily true. For rookie teams, they have what they call like a rookie start kit, which is basically a chassis, which is the drive base for all the wheels. So you could get that. What we did this year is how it works is you spend $5,000 to get in, and then you have an option of what you want to get. You get a start kit or just like random spare parts. What we did is we put our money into like a small lottery for getting a 3D printer, which is what we ended up getting. Because like after 4 years, we kind of have all the startup pieces. We have all the basic pieces we need. Usually the startup kits are useful for rookie teams who don't have anything to start with. But our team being a bit more mature already have, after 4 years, collected quite a bit of material. And every year we buy more raw material in terms of what we need, but in terms of like motors and the stereo, which is like the brain of the robot, or the battery, we kind of have several of those already after the past few years. So we can choose to get a kit apart, but normally we don't. This year we didn't choose to get a kit apart. It depends on what the game's going to be.
Good.
All right, any more questions?
Any other questions? Okay, you're more than welcome to stay and work on that and see if you can get it going in the next little bit. And we have one more topic that we have to deal with this evening, and it's a briefing on the airport blast fence.
Thank you for having us. We'll
and the art on
continue
it,
working
so-
on the robot. I'm sorry.
Thanks.
Council President, I was wondering if we could get a photograph of council
that's a great
members, the
idea.
robot, and
Terrific
the
idea, yeah.
theme. So, thank you.
Where do you want us?
How about it? Yeah, I'll get down to this here.
Okay.
You want to come down for the?
Yeah, why don't we come down?
Down for this one.
And
We have the mayor here.
the mayor come up too.
Yeah.
One's all on this side, so.
Well, last week it was trees, this week it's robots. Okay. I love it. Roll with it. All right, now is this an award you want, Brian? Yeah. You want one of you maybe? Yep. Is that from Portland? Great. All right, several big smiles, nice. Great, thank you. Congrats.
Yeah, pretty impressive.
You think I'm joking, don't you?
I know, I don't, I am completely.
Even if you could make a machine, you'd have to have an abacus to run it.
Marcy?
Oh, they're trying to get on our Wi-Fi, that's what it was.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, is that their issue?
They can't connect to the Wi-Fi.
Oh,
They found Crowd, but it won't connect.
don't feel lonely about not being able to connect to the
Yeah,
Wi-Fi.
really.
Yeah.
Have that problem all the time around here. Mr. Jacobson?
Now that the pressure's on, I probably won't be able to run a PowerPoint. For anybody watching on TV, I'm Doug Jacobson, Deputy Public Works Administrator for Transportation, and with me this evening is Rylan Zuloff, the Airport Manager, and we're here to come back after a recent presentation we made to the council and show you a little more detail, a little better picture of the artwork that is proposed for the backside of the blast fence. If you remember, when we were here before, this was the picture we were able to show you. Since then, we've done a little more work, and this is the center, the aluminum panels that are going to be there that will have this etched in it. Subsequent to the last presentation, Ryan spent some time talking to Councilmember Breyer about some questions she had about the artwork, and particularly whether or not it adequately represented that this is the city of Renton Airport as opposed to just Renton as a community. And they talked about the actual structure of the artwork, particularly the fins, and how some previous projects that had been done in the area with a similar concept had not had a long shelf life. but the artist that's preparing ours seems to have learned those lessons, and what was being proposed, she felt, would probably withstand the test of time. Ryan can go into the specifics of the differences if you're interested. She also raised some questions about incorporating Clayton Scott Field and Will Rogers Wiley Post Seaplane Base, or the word municipal airport or something into the artwork, and we're willing to pursue those conversations with the artist and to see if more identity to the city of Renton and it being a municipal airport can be worked into the backside of the blast fence, if that's something the majority of the council would like us to pursue. And so at this point, we'll open it to questions to address any additional concerns or comments you have about the backside of the blast fence.
Questions?
So what we're seeing on the screen is what is going to go up?
Yes, that's what is currently proposed. You know, the etching of the three airplanes with the word Renton. And so I think before there was consensus, everyone liked the three planes, the history of the planes at the airport. And the question seems to be whether or not we want to try to do something that identifies it more as the city's municipal airport as opposed to an airport in Renton. And if that was a concern, we can go either way.
Well, don't we already have a sign down there on the airport way that says it's the Renton Municipal Airport?
Correct. The front entrance has that sign, and that's one of the reasons why the artist had not elected to add that additional text or those additional words into this, just to keep it short and crisp as Renton.
I mean, I'm not an artist.
Yeah.
I'll be the first to admit that to everybody, but I like it.
You might remember, I think it's on there's a cement, about a 2 or 3 foot legend, so it says Clayton Scott Field on that. I don't think it says the Wiley Post Seaplane Base on that entrance.
That's correct. We've had a project on our capital plan for a number of years to rehab the north entrance, and we had considered about, off of Rainier Avenue, we had thought about doing some sort of treatment to recognize that, bring out the Will Rogers Wiley Post at that location. That project has yet to be designed, but at least it's conceptualized in our heads.
Yes, my feeling is Wiley Post is an important part of this airport, but more important to that is the planes that we're building and that heritage. So I like this, and yeah. So if I don't.
And Councilmember Breyer was okay with this, as is?
Yeah.
She's our artist
Yeah,
graphic.
and she also in her private practice had some experience with these kind of reflective tabs, kind of like on with the sparkle. You've seen them on the back of those sparkle trucks, and she indicated that she had some. They had some failures on that kind of artwork. We've looked at those issues, and what we're really doing here is we'll have. Our little reflective panels similar to this will be made of aircraft aluminum on a stainless steel rod with carbon fiber bushings to keep the panels free swinging, and they'll be anodized aluminum. So when we look at art like this, it is really important that we take into account the full cost of ownership. We can't afford to have premature failure, especially of kinetic art, right? Then that's part of.
But didn't she had a question, she was the one who raised the question about the name, right? Changing instead of.
Yes. She saw it as a way to possibly, advertise the community a little bit more and its connection to history and whatnot, so.
Greg?
Yes. Just a couple questions. One is for clarification. A question and a comment. The red, white portion up there, that's the old blast fence, is that correct?
Actually, that is a federal requirement
Okay.
that we have. It's actually signal orange and white,
Okay.
but it's a federal requirement to denote the blast fence as an
Okay.
obstruction.
Okay, so that's a part of it all? Okay.
Correct.
And then the other part is, I guess we can't see it, but, you explained it with that material that you just showed us, that would have the reflective effect, once it's been installed, and the planes would be visible through that, so they would have that kind of...
You won't be able to see through that wall. You won't, for example, you might see the tail of a 737 sticking above the blast wall, but you won't be able to see through that.
I think Councilman
the
Taylor meant,
reflective
will
tail.
the part where the silhouettes are not, are they of that same flowing material? That's solid, correct?
Correct,
It's
that
just
is
the
solid.
sides where you see the different colors that Doug's pointing to,
Okay,
right?
all right.
And,
okay.
and those 3 airplanes will be built of anodized aluminum as well, and if somebody in the future wants to change those out, they can certainly do that with a fair amount of
So
heat.
Doug, point to the left and right of the airplanes. That's the reflective material, the gray.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay, and that I'm okay with that. The additional verbiage of municipal airport is somewhat redundant since we've already got it, right there at the entrance of the airport. So that looks pretty straightforward and clean.
Okay, what I'm hearing is go for it.
Yeah. When?
That's great. And I, just as a
This summer.
comment,
Ryan knows me.
just as a comment for the public, is the blast fence was built when, back in, for the 707?
Yes,
When-
at the beginning of the jet age here that started in Renton, I'm proud to say.
And it was made out of plywood, and the plywood has pretty well run its course, and it's too high for what the pilots need for today. And the reason it was high was because obviously the 707 was higher off the ground than the 737. So-
Actually, it was a 727. They had that.
727, that's
Yeah,
right.
they had the engine way up in
With
the
the big
tail.
engine on top, that's right, I
Yes.
got my planes mixed up. But anyway, it's something that needs to be replaced, and we're trying to make it look nice at the same time, so appreciate it.
And following up on a comment that was made at the last meeting, we have contacted the Museum of Flight, Boeing historian, and the Renton Historical Society as to whether or not they would like a piece of the old blast fence. And I believe we've heard back from the Renton Historical Museum and Boeing that they would each like a piece. And I don't think we've heard yet from the Museum of Flight. Correct.
Great.
But we followed up on that suggestion, and it was a good one because they want a piece of it.
Fantastic.
Great. Okay, with that, Committee of the Whole is adjourned for this evening.
Because I love to give and know that I have a connection.
Get you right there.
It's a very easy way to give back to public schools.
And I think that takes the best of what the internet offers, an ability for people to self-organize around communities of shared concern.
This is exactly the kind of social innovation we should be encouraging across this country.
I love DonorsChoose.org, and it's why I'm on the board.